Hello, guy.
Oh boy, I'm sorry. I just woke up.
No problem. Yeah. You know what? One thing I have learned is patience.
Well, I think that we should probably aim more at 7:30 with me. It doesn't seem to be working very well. But
uh,
good morning. Good
yeah. Good
morning.
morning. Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
I'm alive.
Uh, you
Okay.
know what I've done so far was kind of like a preliminary trial.
Right.
I'm talking kind of about synchronicity. What,
Right.
what was kind of funny about this, as I wrote, if this is a story within a story within a story, I
Right.
have been looking like tells for this basically for I think 50 years. I've always been interested in storytelling, so I wrote my dragon tales, and then I wrote a book on swan tales, which is kind of like Indian or old Indian fable tales.
Uh-huh.
Then I wrote a book on storytelling about a couple of months ago.
Oh my
And,
God.
and then you introduced me to the Jakarta tales, and the Jakarta tales are kind of like the tales that I have been looking for. so so I that's why for me I call it a story within a story within a story. If it wasn't, it's kind of amazing. 49 years ago, I meet you in India, and then we had all that occurred, in India and Colorado, and then fast forward 49 years, and then we get together, and then you say, "Hey, have you ever heard about these Jakarta tales?"
Well, I'm still learning stuff, that is pretty fundamental, simple stuff that I'm getting like for the first time, that I've known about, but it didn't sink in all the way. It was just sort of it was just shells on the beach, 40 years ago, and now all of a sudden you go, oh my God,
Huh.
or it is.
Yeah, I was totally impressed by them. You know,
Mhm.
uh, and actually, for the first tell, I tried to rewrite it, and then as I got into the next one,
Right.
to be honest, it would be kind of hard for me to rewrite because as the story goes, I think there's certain like symbols and a certain way that's being translated from, and I don't know Polly at all, and I wouldn't want to do any so-called damage to creating my own tell. So I don't so I'm very reluctant. So what I've done, just for this personal project that I did for phase one, which we'll probably scrap, but I found the particular tells, and then I embedded references in my document in that. So so
Okay. Well, I
so
think. Okay. Good. Well, you said how many tails are there that you found, or
so far I've done about I think 33 so far.
okay. Well, yeah. Okay. And then you said that somewhere there's several hundred of them, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. There's I saw, yeah, I saw this one house probably has a several hundred, and I heard there's 572 tales,
Okay.
and
Uh,
and they were written over a course of 7 centuries.
but now that makes sense to me. Now that makes sense. That I can believe.
Uh,
Because again, in the East, storytelling is, um, well, actually, just generally in olden times, storytelling was very, it was the primary means of communication.
yeah, yeah.
Everything was a story. It wasn't So the lawyers get involved. It was all stories, you know.
Right. Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Said, well, our story is more accurate than your story.
Hmm.
And I think, you know, that, and then, as you said, there's something in the telling of the story that's very important. And, you know, I think I told you I had a job working for the head monk here, and it was very interesting translating. It was already in English, well, it was in English that you could read. You know, it had to be written again, and she and I would wrestle because sometimes, even though it was awkward, the meaning was there. So you know, it didn't make perfect English, but the turn of phrase was actually more accurate to the original meaning. So sometimes it's good to have, you know, it's like, you know, the only language I know other than English is French. I mean, the only one I know any worth a darn. And there, you know, it's all very, you know, if you translate, which I used to do, English into French and try to speak that way, I mean, nobody knows what you're talking about. Nobody.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Uh-huh.
all based on usage and the words that they use, and you can make some big mistakes. You know, there's, you know, the expression for okay. If you say okay, um, and we use okay for thank you in English, and if you use okay in France for thank you, it's like the biggest insult in the world.
Oh gosh. Uh,
Oh, yeah, I did it once, and my French friends, you know, nearly buried me, and that was good to know that, you know. So you know, it's fun, but I think, you know, if we can stay true to the intent, I don't think we'll ever be able to get the language correct. And you know, I don't think that's the point, is to have perfect language. But I think that the story should have, you know, certain rhythm and cadence, and it should have a certain you know, nice quality to the tale. It shouldn't be bumpy. It should be, you know, this focus should be on, you know, these funny events that are taking place. You know.
mhm.
So do you have any favorites at this time?
Yeah. Well, let's see. Uh, what would be I love the one about the deer and and the king, where the king started knocking off one by one, you know, all the deers, and so then each time that they did that, you know, like basically tens of deers got injured because you know, they didn't want to get killed. So when the arrows flew, the deers got injured running for dear life. And then the wise deer and the other wise deer from the other tribe, when they came together, uh, they said, well, let's, you know, this is the best way we can handle this. So anyway, that was one of my favorite stories. You know, just in the terms of using common sense and bravery and wisdom. You know, they ultimately, you know, got the king. You know, not only to stop the killing of deer, but to stop the killing of all animals. And I
Huge. No, you know, that's a good one, and it's a big one. Then again, there's another one that's, again, these tales are not. I think there are probably several versions of some of these, especially the one with the deer. There's even one. I think it's a deer, but there's one about some animal and a tree and something to eat, And again, it's another sacrifice where someone gives up the current need for the benefit of um, for the benefit of the other. And of course, it comes back many, many times over in the future. So, I don't know if we really have anything quite the same in English. I don't know. I mean, we have Grimm's fairy tales, and we have, I don't think we have morality tales of this depth. I don't think so.
Yeah, the closest that I ever saw when I was a kid, you might have remembered, Shirley Temple in the, I think, early 60s did a fairy tale with morals and ethics in it. And
Really?
so it was only a half an hour. It was wasn't a cartoon, but they had characters who acted out certain parts. And I remember always at the very end, Shirley Temple, when everything was over, she would do a narrative, and basically it was a narrative, a commentary about the wisdom from
Right.
from that tale. I don't know if you ever saw that, but it really,
No.
I saw that. I must have been about 9, 10 years old, and absolutely I loved them.
Right. Well, there are Aesop's fables, which I guess are Greek, and that's and they probably stem from they're probably derived from the Indian myths. All these stories have a common root, and it's like the creation myth. They keep finding older and older versions of the creation myth and the flood myth. So much so that now they know that there have been floods, and they've documented when the floods took place. So, okay, because I guess the thing to do is sort of choose, the sort of 10 of these guys, based on the most poignant and the most sort of accessible in English.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we told 10 of these well, that would be a job well done.
Yeah, yeah. Likewise. Did you have an opportunity to listen to any of them that I posted it on YouTube? There's a playlist that maybe I'll send you today of Jakarta Tales. So far I posted.
The ones on YouTube, I think I've listened to all of them.
Okay.
Any Jataka tales that have been on YouTube, I think I've even listened to the most embarrassing ones, with the colorful cartoons and everything. I was sort of, and I think I even got a book of Jataka tales from Amazon, which I passed on to someone else.
Yeah.
And again,
Uh-huh.
it was lacking. It was it was okay, but they didn't embrace it in the way that you and I are discussing, which is these are very rich stories, and they need to be retold in English, not in translated.
Yeah, so I posted about 30 of them on Facebook. So basically, what you saw, or saw in that document, I actually created a YouTube. So I actually read those stories, and I posted it. I have a Jakarta playlist.
Okay.
So I'll send that to you so you can take a look at that. Granted, we're gonna wanted to expand on that, make it better. But this is kind of just showing you that either one of us can read stories, or we can get a good a storyteller, but
We should also look at what books have been written on the topic. Again, I've seen one or two books, and they sort of go from the extraordinarily naive to the over translated, and they sort of miss the point in between. I haven't seen one that's, one thing that, I'm not very fond of Disney for all kinds of reasons, but he knew how to tell a story. He knew how to make it, into colloquial English. Everybody spoke correctly. And, he probably had a school teacher in there modifying the language of all these little characters. And it would be nice to see something that is done intelligently, because the content is intelligent, and the storytelling should be, up to par, I think. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I will listen to that. If you just send me that link, I will listen to each one of those to make sure that I've heard them all. And then again, I think our next step is to, pick 10, and if it works, we can pick another 10 and another 10 and another 10. But I think to get everybody hooked on, especially now, this is a great time because everybody's about to go back to school, and I'm sure everybody's scrambling for curriculum.
Yeah.
This could be a nice, this could be a very nice gift to the educational community, because it could be, again, if it's written in English, it could be good English, it could be good storytelling, it could be a good story as a little morality without going off the deep end. It doesn't have to be Christian or Hebrew or anything. It's just what I love about it is just a story.
Yeah. So what basically I think what we ought to do is, I have that existing project, so we should start, brand new, and
Okay.
then choose the the 10 best ones. Maybe you could go through the ones that I've done, and then either that, we can even listen to them in our Zoom sessions and kind of say, yeah, yay, no, nah.
Well, if you want to start some right now, that would be good. And I don't have to get all the way through each one. I think it's just good to start them, and let's identify the ones that are salient.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. Hold on for 1 second.
Yeah, I'm having to relearn my Mac and my PC and my iPad, and they've changed iMovie. Everything has changed, and then Google was not able to send stuff the other day for about 4 days, and then for Adobe, wrote an update to Photoshop, or what's it called, Light Table, and lost everybody's photographs permanently.
Oh no! Oh my gosh! Whoa!
Yeah, and they hardly even apologized. It was just the irresponsibility of this generation is just. I find it hard to describe. Nobody takes any responsibility.
Jealous of the Buddha. He would think to himself,
So here's the very first one.
Buddha and the drunk elephant. Buddha had a cousin named Devata. Devata was very jealous of the Buddha. He would think to himself, why, he gets all the attention. I'm just as good as he is. Sometimes we believe what the mind tells us. came up with a master plan. He knew that in a few days, Blue was going to a particular village. The Mata went to this village a day before Buddha was supposed to show up. He got an elephant totally drunk. I mean, totally drunk. Then he started to beat the poor old elephant with a stick. He did this once he saw Buddha entering the village. The elephant was in extreme pain and furious. He wanted revenge. The Mata then opened up the gate.
So,
The Buddha and his followers. Like a mad elephant, he ran towards them. Everyone scrambled for dear
Wait, let me stop. Okay.
Everyone except
one thing we have to do is we have to replace all the names, or if we use the names, simplify them, or you know, we don't have to call them Joe and Harry, but we do have to, you know, if it's his cousin, then we just refer to it as his cousin. But it's the Indian names are just way too big a distraction, and I could really give a darn if somebody says, "Well, no, you have to get the names right." No, you don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
And if the name actually means something, which is the only real argument for keeping the name, is if the name has some meaning, like, you know, finder of bliss. Well, then, you know, we should concoct a, you know, something, but it has to be English. You know, we cannot expect people to cross continents to get the idea. And everybody, you know, a lot of people go, well, it's, you know, it's a very romantic thing. We're going to another time, another culture, and I'm in favor of the, you know, the atmosphere, but I don't think you can have, not at the sacrifice of understanding and losing attention. I mean, if you tell a story and you lose people's attention, you're not telling a story. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I have a prejudice in that direction. So, okay, I got the elephant one. The elephant one is definitely in. And the deer one is definitely in. Even this version that you found, I think, is definitely in.
So then here's the Deer King. So we know that's in. You want to listen to the Golden Plate just for a few seconds?
Or do you have the turtle one?
Let's see, the wind. I thought I did something about the watering, the bull, treasures, the banyan tree, best friend, the baby quail, mouse. I thought I had that. No, I don't think so.
Okay, so in any case, one thing that keeps coming up is primarily there's an animal in each of these stories.
Correct. Yeah.
So in our naming of these stories, the animal name has to surface, or the type of animal. If it's the deer or the elephant, you know, with the Buddha, okay. But again, you know, the minute you say Buddha, you just lost, you know, Middle America. You know, I mean, I am a very dedicated Buddhist. I mean, to me, that's the same thing as being a Hindu. There's no difference. Which is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody, but if you're not Jesus front and center, you're Satan. Okay, and I have no desire to go up against those people. You know, here are perfectly good tales, and you and I are trying to bring them back to 21st century. A fair thing to do, a good thing to do, and a little bit daunting. And I just think that we need to establish some guidelines that will help us successfully, not translate, but successfully communicate the content.
Mm-hmm.
I don't doubt that you and I could find the 10 or 100 best stories, and we could you know, with the help of a couple of professors, make sure they're the most perfect translations that anybody's seen. But we still haven't done the job because, again, you know, you're sitting there with your daughter, your granddaughter, you know, whoever, your class, and you just want to spend 5 minutes reading a story out loud, or having a kid read a story out loud, or give them a story to read and, you know, illustrate or whatever. And, you know, if they're trying to figure out why they can't say Deborah Rinkelfrinkadink, you know, then, you know, who cares about King 7 syllables? Nobody cares.
So you know, probably what we should do then, let's, as you said first about a week ago, let's choose one and let's make that perfect. So we'll have a great title that any kid, you know, can understand. Then we can take a look at all the, if there's the Indian names in that, you know, come up, you know, for that particular story, what Western name we should use, and then then basically round out the tell, so it's can speak, you know, in a common language that all kids would understand and not put down. So.
And we can even have fun. I would like to start with the elephant one because it's nice and short and to the point.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
And then you know, even if the king's name is King, you know, multiple syllables, all upside down and inside out. G. You know, we could call him. You know, we could even say his name, and then we say, but we're gonna call him King Tom or whatever it is. You know, we're just, you know, we can adapt it into a vernacular that, you know, if we need to distinguish who someone is, we're going to say, there was a king whose name was so long that only 2 people in his kingdom could pronounce it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
So we're going to call him the king, okay, or something like that.
Yeah.
That we don't alienate. That's the word I'm looking for. We don't want to alienate anybody, Rich.
Yeah.
Okay, another one.
Okay, then let's see which ones. It's a kind of. Oh, here's Bamboo's father. This is only 316.
Okay.
Bamboo's father went to advice. Once upon a time, there was a teacher who meditated much and developed his mind. Gradually, his fame spread. Those who wished to be guided by a wise man came to hear him. Considering what he said to be wise indeed, 500 decided to become his followers. One of those 500 who considered his teaching to be wise was a certain pet lover. In fact, he loved pets so much that there's no animal he did not wish to keep as a pet. One day, he came upon a cute little poisonous snake who was searching for food. He decided he would make an excellent pet, so he made a little bamboo cage to keep him, in which he had to leave him alone. The other followers called the little snake Bamboo. Because he was so fond of his pet, they called the pet lover Bamboo's father. Before long, the teacher heard that one of his followers was keeping a poisonous snake as a pet. He called him to him and asked if this was true. Bamboo's father said, "Yes, master, I love him like my own child." The wise teacher said, "It's not safe to live with a poisonous snake. Therefore, I advise you to let him go for your own good." But Bamboo's father thought he knew better. He replied, "This little one is my son. He wouldn't bite me. I can't give him up and live all alone." The teacher warned him that surely this little one will be the death of you. But the follower did not heed his master's warning. Later on, all 500 of the teacher's followers went on a trip to collect fresh fruits. Bamboo's father left his son locked up in the bamboo cage. Since there were many fruits to collect, it was several days before they returned. Bamboo's father realized that poor Bamboo had not eaten the whole time he was away. So he opened the cage to let him out to find food. But when he reached inside, his son bit his hand. Having been neglected for all that time, Bamboo was angry as well as hungry. Since he was only a snake, he didn't know anything about poison. But his father should have known better. After all, he'd been warned by the very teacher he himself considered wise. Within minutes of being bitten, Bamboo's father dropped dead. The moral is there's no benefit in following a teacher if you don't listen to what he has to say.
How long? Perfect.
Big red, little.
Was that?
That was probably about 3.5 minutes, you know?
Yeah, that was about 3.5 minutes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's perfect. I think that's the size we're looking for. By
Mm-hmm.
the again, I'm trying to look for guidelines. Yeah, that's a good one. And Bamboo is good, and Bamboo the snake is even better.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
And this one is right here. It's 306. Big red, little red, and no squeal. This is a pretty good one too.
yeah, we can work on that title.
Big red, little red, and no squeal. Envy. Once upon a time, there were two cats who were part of a country household. At the same home, there also lived a girl and a baby pig. Since he hardly ever made a sound, the pig was called No Squeal. The masters of the house treated No Squeal very, very well. They fed him large amounts of the very best rice, and even rice porridge with rich brown sugar. The two cats noticed this. They worked hard, pulling plows in the field and bullock carts on the roads. Little Red said to Big Red, "My big brother, in this household, you and I do all the hard work. We bring prosperity to the family, but they feed us only grass and hay. The baby pig, No Squeal, does nothing to support the family, and yet they feed him the finest and fanciest of foods. Why should he get such special treatment?" The wise elder brother said, "Oh, young one, it is dangerous to envy anybody. Therefore, do not envy the baby pig for being fed such rich food. What he eats is really the food of death. There will soon be a marriage ceremony for the daughter of the house, and little No Squeal will be the wedding feast. That's why he is being pampered and fed in such rich passion." In a few days, the guests will arrive. Then this piglet will be dragged away by the legs, killed, and made into curry for the feast. Sure enough, in a few days, the wedding guests arrived. The baby pig, No Squeal, was dragged away and killed. And just as Big Red had said, he was cooked in various types of curries and devoured by the guests. Then Big Red said, "My dear young brother, did you see what happened to baby No Squeal?" "Yes, brother," replied Little Red. "Now I understand." Big Red continued, "This is the result of being fed such rich food. Our poor grass and hay are 100 times better than this rich porridge. and sweet brown sugar. For our food brings no harm to us, but instead promises us long life. The moral is, don't envy the well-off until you know the price they pay.
Okay, so it seems that sometimes they clearly state the moral at the end, right?
Correct. Yeah. On all these, they state the moral at the end.
Okay, then we should have a formula for that, which is, and the moral of this story is, we should have something standard. And
Yeah.
also, once upon a time, I sincerely doubt that is what it is in Indian, in Farsi. I sincerely doubt that's I'm sure that's an Englishism. Their story would be, a very, very long time ago, have, they would locate the place and during the reign of King so and so, I don't, this once upon a time thing, I don't think I think that's just added on.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. That's probably from 1800s on, I would imagine, right?
Find our own, maybe they have one that, it exists in another story somewhere, but, we should have, I like Once Upon a Time, but, we have to find our own Once Upon a Time, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because the stories are so unique that, once you're into them, once you find out that the snake's name is Bamboo, you're already wondering what the hell, who would ever name a snake Bamboo? And that's basically, sort of the whole puzzle of the story. Why would anybody name a snake Bamboo? And the reason is it's a poorly named snake, and it's a poorly named, poorly designed device to keep the snake, and it's all that stuff. So anyhow, we need to get that's what we're trying to surface. We're trying to surface. Yes.
Yeah.
The moral is, if you have a teacher, listen to the teacher. The device is, and all these stories have devices. The device is the cage, um, with the elephant, it's that he's drunk. I mean, who's ever heard of a drunken elephant,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Huh.
And who's ever heard of a snake named Bamboo? And that's the part that we want to keep. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just trying to look through in my mind's eye here to the original storyteller. And when you were reading that, I was getting that. I was imagining myself hearing it for the first time. It reminds me of the one that you and I heard many, many times about the fellow crossing the river and trying to save the scorpion, right?
Oh, yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
You and I heard that one at least a half a dozen times, and I wouldn't be surprised if you found the scorpion tail in the Jataka tales. I'm sure that's in there somewhere.
Yeah. I'm sure that is. Yeah. Yeah. And then the thief and the jeweler. That's a real famous one. Yeah, that's an Indian, but that could have came from Jakarta tales.
Well, right. They're coming from the culture, and then they were retold, with an emphasis on the curious thing about Buddhism is Buddhism basically has no God, no love, and no morality, but they're more sincere about the ultimate truth, and they're very strict about how they live, and in the end, especially the ones in the East, are very Confucian. So their moral code is very, very high. So it's just interesting how these tales are sort of a gentler version of Buddhism, and I think I'm guessing they derive from the previous culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I think the Buddhists, I would call them the original psychologists, in terms of knowing the states of mind, and knowing from the various states of mind you can cultivate, all these traits of compassion, of patience, tolerance, so on and so forth, that they can actually be cultivated. Where we
Right.
just think that in the West, the study of happiness only began, to say, in the 1980s. That the scientific world
Right.
looked upon, the psychology of happiness. It was always, the mental distress and insanities, and that's what they studied. But it was never cultivate the positive emotions.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I will eventually, not now because we're in the middle of this, but I will send you a woman. I think I may have told you about her, who teaches at the Indian Institute of Technology.
Oh, I saw her. Oh my gosh.
She's pretty good, huh?
Oh, wow. This is the first time. Just
Right.
see, I've been meditating for almost 50 years.
Yeah.
Her discussion on that, the secret to happiness. What I really liked. I think the best thing I got out of that is that, okay, behind your mind lies the consciousness, lies awareness.
Right.
So we say we think, therefore I am, and
Right.
and in reality is I am, therefore I think.
Right.
And the Western society, psychologists and scientists, they got it backwards. I think, and by having it backwards, our lives are backwards, correct?
It is. I think the Indians, I think the English have very carefully tucked the Indians into a primitive, they try to cast them in a primitive light, and Christianity has been rewritten so many times for so many different political reasons that it's kind of hard to tell. There were 3,000 versions of the New Testament in Greek before it was ever translated into Latin.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
In the first 300 or 400 years, there were 3,000 versions of the New Testament in Greek. We got to the Latin, and then the Latin came after another few thousand, and that's for the English or the German, et cetera, et cetera. So the fact that anybody gets anything out of these things is so. I think when they're telling these stories, they are reaching. I mean, there's something extreme, Bamboo the snake. It's kind of an extreme situation, but that's how the morality tale gets told, is through this unusual and unforgettable. You're never going to forget about Bamboo the snake in your entire life. You're never going to forget that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Never going to forget the drunken elephant. The consciousness, and that's the power of these tales. And I think that if we take this on as we are, that's becoming our responsibility, is to find those fundamental ingredients. Let's do another one.
Okay. Here's, let's see, the crap. Well, that's 10 minutes. So let's do salty liquor. That's only two minutes.
Salty liquor. Foolishness. Once upon a time, there was a tavern owner in Menards. He had a hard-working bartender who was always trying to be helpful by inventing new ways of doing things. One hot day, the tavern owner wanted to bathe in a nearby river, so he left the bartender in charge while he was gone. The bartender had always wondered why most of the customers ate a little salt after drinking their alcohol. Not wishing to show his ignorance, he never bothered to ask them why they do this. He did not know that they ate the salt in order to chase away the aftertaste of the alcohol. He thought it needed salt to taste good. He wondered why taverns did not add salt to their liquor. He decided that if he did so, the business would make much higher profits, and the tavern owner would be very pleased. So he added salt to all the liquor. To his surprise, when the customers came to the tavern and drank the salty liquor, they immediately spit it out and went to a different bar. When the owner returned from his dip in the river, he found his tavern without customers and all his liquor ruined. So he went and told his story to his friend and advisor to the king. The advisor said that incorrect, wishing only to do good, often cannot help doing harm. The moral is the best intentions are no excuse for ignorance.
Great story, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that? Yeah.
Right. Well, the salt keeps you from losing water, but I don't know if that's it. But anyhow, with alcohol, as you know, dehydrates you like crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's try another one. Maybe another animal.
Yeah. Here's the fortunate fish. This is a good one.
The fortune fish. Desire. Once upon a time, King Brahmadatta had a very advisor who understood the speech of animals. He understood what they said, and he could speak to them in their languages. One day, the advisor was wandering along the river bank with his followers. They came upon some fishermen who had cast a big net into the river. While peering into the water, they noticed a big, handsome fish was following this pretty wife. Her shining scales reflected the morning sunlight in all their colors of the rainbow. Her feather-like fins fluttered like the delicate wings of a fairy as they sent her gliding through the water. It was clear that her husband was so entranced by the way she looked and the way she moved that he was not paying attention to anything else. As they came near the net, the wife fish smelled it, and she saw it and alertly avoided it at the very last moment. But her husband was so blinded by his desire for her that he could not turn away fast enough. Instead, he swam right into the net and was trapped. The fishermen pulled in their net and threw the big fish onto the shore. They built a fire and carved a spit to roast them up. Lying on the ground, the fish was flopping around and growing in agony. Since the wise advisor understood fish talk, he transferred for the others. He said, "This poor fish is madly repeating over and over again, 'My wife, my wife, I must be with my wife. I care for her much more than for my life. My wife, I must be with my wife. I care for her much more than for my life.'" The visor thought, truly this fish has gone crazy. He's in this terrible state because he became a slave to his own desire. And it's clear that he has learned nothing from the results of his actions. If he dies keeping such agony and the desire that caused it in his mind, he will surely continue to suffer by being reborn in some hell world. Therefore, I must save him. So this kind man went over to the fisherman and said, "Oh, my friends, loyal subjects of our king, you have never given me and my followers a fish for our curry. Won't you give us one today?" They replied, "Oh, royal minister, please accept from us any fish you wish. This big one on the riverbank looks delicious," said the advisor. "Please take him, sir," they said. Then he sat down on the bank. He took the fish that was still groaning into his hand. He spoke to him in a language only fish can understand, saying, "You foolish fish, if I had not seen you today, you would have gotten yourself killed. Your blind desire was leading you to continue suffering. From now on, do not yourself be trapped by your own desires." Then the fish realized how fortunate he was to have such a friend. He thanked him for his wise advice. The minister released the lucky fish back into the river and went on his way. The moral is, fools are trapped by their own desires.
That was a little man.
Bamboos, father.
I think that one a little work in the translation. Don't ask me now, but it's a little moving out the again the moral thing. We've got to find a nice formula for dealing with the moral of the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But right now it's sounding a little bit like a sort of a tag on the end, and I'm kind of not believing it. The other question that I have in my mind is, who's telling these stories? You know, and I had this question before, and I've never asked it to anybody, but you know, you have all these stories. It kind of sounds like it's the same storyteller. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder why they're called it's impossible to say the Jataka tales. Why are they called the Jataka tales?
Was there ever a king named King Jataka, I wonder?
Probably. So we should find out why they're called that. And I don't think that we would get in too much trouble if we attributed these to a single storyteller, which would make it a lot more. Again, I'm trying to put myself in that young mind that's listening to this. And, you know, instead of a barrage of anonymous storytellers who don't speak English very well and don't know what Walt Disney is, you know, I think it would be much nicer to have. You know who did it? Was Rudyard Kipling. The Just So stories.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Kipling. Yeah.
He did it with the Indian stories, and they're called the Just So stories.
Uh-huh.
You should take a sideways peek at those just to see if there's any overlap. But I think he picked a particular, either one or two people who told the stories, and he did put them all in a certain kind of format. And again, in the Indian culture, I'm sure that everybody knew when it was story time, they knew what they were in for. They knew that they were in for a queer, you know, morality tale, which is, you know, so they, you know, they'd all be sitting together by the fire or whatever, and you know, and someone would be telling these goofy tales, you know.
So, you know, what probably would be good that at the very beginning, be able to have a storyteller, call it whoever it is, but say, you know, come and sit by the campfire a series of tales that needs to be told. So, something like that.
Well, yeah, to keep pointing back at the East, I mean, you know, there's a Thousand and One Night, Scheherazade live by telling the story all night long, you know, until the dawn, and then she another day. That was, you know, again, Scheherazade was a single storyteller, and these are all these old tales that were compiled by what became Scheherazade, you know, which was a beautiful woman who was trying to not have her head cut off by the king. So, you know, I think that was a very, well, devices worked for thousands of years. And if we weren't so at war with the Arabs, I think we probably have more of the stories going on. But we're so busy demonizing other cultures that we don't know how to. So I think that there is a storyteller here. We just don't know who he is. We don't know who Jataka is either, and I'm sure there might be some information. Who is Jataka? That would be a good question for Google, who knows nothing but, you know, sees all, you know.
Yeah, I came up with this. Let's see here. Let me show you here. Let's see where did they come from? Here, just listen to this for a few seconds.
Where they came from. This story belongs to the Chakata tales, which are part of the sacred Buddhist literature. The Chakata are a collection of 547 stories that deal with anecdotes, legends, and fables about the incarnation of the Buddha prior to its existence as such between 563 and 483 BCE. Jakarta's stories are dated between 300 BCE and 400 CE. That is, they were composed over 7 centuries. The following came from an article by Andrew Shelley, which appeared in the Tricycle magazine fall 1991. The Jakarta tales from which the story comes gathered some of the earliest and strangest writings presented to the Buddhist heritage. Jakarta means birth. The old collection is described.
So this is kind of like almost like a more intellectual version, but we want to come up with a version like this for kids, right?
Right. Is that you reading?
Yeah, that's me reading. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So did they say what the Jataka was?
Yeah. Let me let's see here.
In a vernacular language called Pali, preserved 550 legends which tell of the Buddha's miraculous birth in the eons before he became enlightened. The stories occur in a rough hewn pose, studied with cryptic shards of a much older verse. It is in these broken fragments of poetry that you find something remarkable ancient animal tales dating in all likelihood to the Neolithic times. Folklore and archaeology suggest that the Jakarta's interest in wild animal personality is not an isolated incident. The earliest pictorial art largely depicts animals. Think of the Magdalenian cave paintings found in Spain and southern France, or compatible rock art that survives across the planet. There's every reason to believe that the earliest verbal art is concerned with similar things. As written documents, the Chicocata tales are ancient, but from any anthropological perspective, comparatively recently, humans have been speaking for 40,000 years, perhaps longer. During that time span, the animal fable occurred many places, but survives into this day, largely in cultures like India, with the old spoken law met on friendly terms with the scholar's pen. I do believe, however, that the Jakarta tales register the first instance of written literature, what I call gross, cross, species compassion, or Jakarta mind, an immediate, qualified empathy shown towards creatures not of one's own biological species. Perhaps the tales retain traces of a universal contact between living creatures, so long ago vanished that no one remembers its ancient imperatives. With a bow to the old story, Jakarta mind is that conscious human being behavior which bears with that old way of thinking. Tales like the one just recounted were meant to awaken a notion of kingship that sweeps across animal species. Animals to the Chakata simply justify the storyteller's interest. They show themselves to be of an equal, often a higher, ethical order than humans. 1,000, 2,000, maybe 10,000 years after these tales first began to circulate through the villages and pass along the trade routes of Asia, Buddhism casts the Jakarta tales into philosophical form. The Diamond Sutra, a central document in India, Tibet, China, and Japan, makes explicit what the old stories had just been told. It is here that the Buddha announced an unqualified brother and sisterhood of creatures. One should produce a thought in this land, as many beings have.
So,
Yeah. Well, again, we've lost our audience. That's the bad part.
yeah, we did on that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so,
I got the part about the animals and the ancient part of it, which I think is, really good. I mean, these are ancient tales, and it'd be good to say we don't know where they came from. We know that they're very ancient, but I never heard what Jataka means.
yeah, so definitely, this, this version right here would be for the intellectual Buddhist, correct? That they would love this versus, a kid could say, I don't comprehend, I have no idea what you're talking about. So,
Yeah.
so we just need to translate this in kid English.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be unsophisticated. It just needs to be, that's, I think, I'd be really good for us to revisit Rudyard Kipling again, because, he did it so well. And,
And another one, the 1,000 Nights, the
Thousand and One Nights. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But that one is pretty racy. It's, if there's a moral in the tale, it's like, don't get caught.
yeah,
like,
yeah, right, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's a,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a little bit different. These are filled with, and when they say don't get caught, it's a little tongue in cheek. That's kind of the humor of the time. Because if you get caught, you're gonna lose a hand or some part of your body. So don't get caught, which means don't do it in the first place. But again, it doesn't translate that way into English. But I think that if worst comes to worst, we're just going to have to invent a storyteller
Yeah, yeah.
who collected stories walking around India for hundreds of years, and and maybe Jataka, which we're going to have to change because it's impronounceable. I mean, I thought it was Jakarta for the longest time, and then I found out it was Jat, and Jataka. I guess it's Jataka, but it's very hard to say. So that's why it would be really good to find out, if there is it's obviously Sanskrit roots. It's clearly Sanskrit, so God knows what it means. After the phone call, I think Google will let me, go online, but right now it doesn't let me do it, so that's okay. All right. So,
So yeah, so the first thing, so our foundation, we need to have an opening, where the storyteller comes in and announces who he is, and announces, for the kids, to gather around the campfire and listen to the tales. So then the kids automatically will know, okay, there's one central storyteller for all these tales. So that's probably the first thing that we should probably work on is that, and then come up with the very first tale that we want to do.
I think he could have been, a character, sort of a grandfather type or grandmother type that has traveled extensively and has gathered these stories from various places. I don't think these are all his that they made it all into one author who was a poor woman, and I think we could have someone a little bit more relatable that's basically you could get the to wear a turban, tell the story. It'd be great.
Well, that would be, wouldn't it? Oh yeah, yeah.
My mother, who I believe you met.
Yep. I met your mom. Yep.
I remember the character, but in any case, I was probably in first grade. I don't think I was even in second grade. I think it was first grade. And she came to school and she put on an outfit. It was in a little closet or room off of the thing. She's all dressed up and she had incense going and the whole thing. And the kids would go in one at a time and she would tell them their fortunes.
Whoa.
And then it came my turn, and I had to go in and believe in this nonsense. And I go, hey, who are you kidding? I know who you are. You're my mother, for Christ's sake, You know, but nobody else knows. So just play along. And I said, okay. So, but so I'm kind of at home with a storyteller idea. But I think we need to have storyteller. I don't think you and I have to lock the story down. I think it would be a kindness for us to make storytelling some kind of a costume that the teacher, so to speak, could put on. It was like, maybe the storyteller is just the storyteller, and nobody was quite sure who it was, except he always wore a blue scarf around his face or something like that. So, in other words, we could transform the teacher into the storyteller by simply wearing a blue scarf.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
again, I'm trying to be true to the tradition, and you just said that these stories probably are based on animal tales, which would be an interesting thing to Google and to see. I bet you that the Indians, God knows the American Indians had, God knows how many tales of their, and they are morality tales of the bear and the wolf and the fish and I mean, they have all those tales.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
the
I don't
good wolf and the bad wolf's another one. Remember that one?
just take we don't want to get lost over there, but it might think just peek over there. And if there is a good one, again, the storyteller being sort of this wandering individual could, say, oh, um, by the way, Rich, you know how the Indians in the Americas, the indigenous people, got called Indians?
No. Well, listen, originally they got called Indians because when Christopher Columbus came to America for the first time, he thought he went to India. Isn't that right?
Right. Do you know why India is called India?
No, is that not because of the Indus Valley?
It
No.
was named after the Indus River, which was the dividing line, except that river was not the Indus River. So the comedy behind all of this, it's not, okay, it was a misnomer for the American Indians. So, everything is a misinterpretation by, want to put us down, but Western minds, Western minds entered into a new or unknown place. They grabbed whatever name was around. I mean, which, by the way, is typical, and that's gone on for millennia. Where even a town, Alexandria had names before it was Alexandria; it was something else. All these towns had other names, Constantinople, and all these towns were other towns beforehand, and all these stories are ancient stories. So I think to have a storyteller as a hero is kind of a nice idea, and it might be then we can sort of avoid the once upon a time and the depends on what the moral of the story is, because again we could say actually what you want is you want the kids to say what the moral of the story is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. You want them to fall in love with the characters and the strangeness of the whole thing. So anyhow, I'm just, I'm trying to contribute as much as I can here. I'm not trying to make work. I'm just trying to, you and I are not librarians. We didn't meet 50 years ago so we could be librarians today. We're trying to, what you and I did we did out of our hearts and our passion and our instincts, which were, beyond. When we went to Montrose, I don't know if you ever went to Granby. Did you go to Granby on the way to Montrose?
I don't remember going through Granby. No.
Granby was a festival just prior to Montrose.
Oh yeah, I heard about that festival. No, I didn't make that. Nope. Oh yeah.
Well, somehow I don't know how I heard about it, and but anyhow, it was run by the Rainbow Tribe. That still
Yeah.
still exists today, and I met I have met and spoken to kids who were there with their parents who have since passed away. So anyhow, I would talk to the kids who were running around as babies in 1969 or 70, whatever that was, and they're now part of the tribe. Give me a break. And I found it. Someone said, "Oh, well, there's a festival. We've got an extra day. There's a festival in Granby," and I turned the car in a certain direction with no instructions, no directions, and drove right directly to Granby. And of course, then I stapled Guru Maharaji posters into every tree in Granby, which is my unfortunate misunderstanding of how to do that. And I should have found a nicer way of promoting the Lord of the universe, but I had lots of staple guns. So anyhow, I like the idea of a storyteller.
Yeah, definitely.
And that way, even if you're doing it or we get someone else to do some, it's okay, because the storyteller is, another storyteller could come and sit by the fire, you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
With an old woman was sitting by the fire, she was somebody's grandmother or something. And then, she told this great story about the wolf. And when she was done, someone else came and sat by the fire and told another story. So I'm just saying, we can turn it into something pretty interesting. You and I have discovered a sort of a chaos of stories that are wonderful stories that have been poorly told for the last, 200 years. And I remember hearing them in India. I don't remember hearing these stories in India. The only one I remember is the scorpion, and I wonder if that's a Jataka tale.
Probably so. Yeah. I'm gonna do a search on that today for sure. Let's see here. While you're online, here, let's do it right here. Let's do Google. Can you see this?
Hang on.
Let's see. Oh, scorpion.
There we go.
Scorpion.
Yeah, Google, there we go.
Scorpion tails.
It's a piece of software called OS. Broadcast.
Oh, you found one?
Add-on, which allows you to do amazing things. And just for now, mark it down. Okay? I've been working several
For some reason, Guy, you're fading in and out.
Oh, okay. It must be my stomach. So anyhow, the software is called OSB, and it's being used a lot by people who are doing what you and I are doing, especially if there's a group involved and there's other media involved. OSB allows sort of a more seamless integration of various media types. It does split screen. You can play straight through. It's you just put it down. We'll discuss it more later. It's you need to know about it. Is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me okay.
So what comes up under Mr. Google?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I'm trying to under Mr. Google. Scorpion to see here. Yes, it found no one. How about I'm going to do Indian, Hindu? You see, I couldn't find anything on
Just try Sanskrit meaning Jataka.
Okay. So it's a Jakarta derives from the word Jayakarta, which is ultimately derived from the Sanskrit Jaya, victorious, and Kurta, accomplished, acquired. Thus, Jakarta translates as victorious deed, complete act, or complete victory.
Well, let's save that information. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's, you see, now it's like, now it actually means something, you know? It's a victorious story, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing, okay? That's the same Jai that you and I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same Jai. And Karta is, what is Karta again?
Means accomplished, acquired. And then here's Jakarta in the Wikipedia. Let's see. Oh, that's what that was. Yeah. So basically, what that was, it was named after Muslim troops successfully and drove out the Portuguese. No, that can't be. 1537.
Oh, yeah, anything can be anything, trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jakarta is also an island somewhere, I think.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but here's more quantity than used during existence. Let's see. Is this the? This is Jakarta, the island. Okay, that's Indonesia.
Right.
Okay, that's not.
Yeah, that's Google trying hard and not knowing better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's no AI in. Well, they say they have AI, but they don't really have AI. That's another discussion.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so okay, good. Well, that's good. So why don't we look for 5 more animal tales, and if you find a good American Indian tale or an Eskimo tale.
Yeah. Let's see here. Here's. Hold on for 1 second here. Let me go to. Okay. Let's see here. Kids
The
Dragon
Buddha,
Tales.
yeah, the Buddhists are gonna kill me. Say, oh my God, you can't do this, you can't. And oh yes, we can.
Let's see here, US stuff. Okay, here it is. Learn how to frog 3 stuff. Oh, okay. Let's reshare the screen again. Share screen.
Hell, you could have a Hindu monk, you could have a Buddhist monk, you could have a Christian monk all come by the fire and tell stories. You could have an Eskimo come by the fireplace. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You could have Chief Sitting Bull come by and tell a story. I mean, what we're saying is, it's the story by the fire.
Here's one.
An old Cherokee is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside me, he said to the boy. It's a terrible fight. It's between 2 wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, dread, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. He continued. The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith.
The same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too. The grandson thought about a virgin and then asked his grandfather, which will win? The old Cherokee simply replied, the one you feed.
Interesting.
Old Cherokee.
And so this is what I did a book on swan tales. So and some of these came from India, like the Jeweler and the Thief. That's an old Indian one. The Frog in the Well, Three Blind Men, and the Elephant. The sun, the sun and the wind, and the sun and darkness. You know, these are all tales. You know that Amraji used to tell, and the Mahatmas back then.
Well, I think we can abscond with all of this stuff. I mean, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, we can sweep it all into our basket and take it. You know, why not?
Mm-hmm.
No one's obviously no one's paying any attention, and I think it would be great to, especially in lieu of the situation, which is, what are these poor teachers going to do? How are they going to? Oh, it's bad enough teaching math. Now they have to teach math over a fucking video connection.
I know, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know about you, but my love of video, which was, you know, probably it was huger than Mount Everest. You know, my love of video is so changed. I think, you know, my love of video now is just, I just knew that it was going to become popular. I didn't know that I'd have to live in video, which is what I, you know, I spend 7 hours a day living in video. So, no, I've done a lot of research and I haven't had to read that much. So it's been useful. But I sort of like this idea of these victorious, it's not the right word, but these victory stories by, you know, stories by the fire, and then these storytellers, plural, let's keep the ambiguity or the openness of the storyteller. The idea is that for some reason these storytellers are all gathering or coming by, and that's just fine. And then they tell their stories, and whether they're Jakadic tales or Jataka tales or Eskimo tales, or, you know, I think the ones that deal with animals seem to get the message across the best, don't you?
Oh yeah, almost definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure there's some great other tales, but the ones with the animals seem to be, because all the animals are is sort of a personification of our human traits. And you know, the scorpion in us, the snake in us, the child in us, the, you know, all of these things are there.
Here's something that is I wrote. I'll just play a few minutes. It's Dragon Tales. So this story tells the history of the dragons going from Great Britain to Tibet. So here's just a few. I'll just play a few minutes of it.
Once upon a time, many moons ago, lived the dragons. They lived with the British Isles for today. Now these dragons weren't exactly nuns. In fact, they were mean. Dragons in the past were kind and caring, yet over time, they lost their awareness. It may seem strange to us, but they love to bicker and quarrel. They love to be angry. They love to trade war. That was their form of excitement. This went on for thousands of years. You see, dragons can live to a dear old age. These dragons cause a lot of discomfort in the countryside in the British Isles. Imagine waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and seeing your precious cow taken away by the dragon.
So this is a tale of how this one dragon named Zoran got kicked out because he was a kind, patient, loving dragon, where he didn't want to hoard gold. He was not even interested in greed at all. So basically, it talked about the transformation where he got kicked out, and a bunch of young dragons went with him, and they went to
Tibet.
Yeah.
And started preaching compassion. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then this word, that the city, Shambhala, was actually came from this. So I would think this story, and then I have see the jewel and the thief and planting the seeds and stop the noise in my head. Those are common tales. So I imagine a young Tibetan, two girls, walked into the cave and stumbled upon in the cave, and they saw these 10 dragons meditating.
Yeah.
And then the dragons woke up. And the girls, weren't afraid at all because there was so much peace permeating. They never felt anything quite like that. And
Right.
and the girls had a discussion and said to the dragons, "Wow, can you teach us how to meditate?" And just for a fraction of a second, the dragons stopped to themselves. Here we are. If we teach them how to meditate in the United Kingdom, they had dragon slayers. But the girls were so innocent that the dragons said, "Of course we will." So they taught them to meditate, and they had a whole series of stories that they told to the kids. So one was the jeweler and the thief, planting the seeds. They were farmers, and so the kids knew if you plant seeds on the ground, you got to take care of them, right? You have to water them, pull the weeds, you have to do the cultivation, all that. So the dragons told them stories of how you can plant the inner seeds of compassion, of peace, of tolerance, and you have to water it every day. You got to pull the weeds. And then once they started to learn how to meditate, the kids would go to the dragons and say, I can't stop the noise in my head. And so all the dragons, would laugh and laugh because nobody gets a free ride. Everyone has to learn, how to tame the mind.
Right. That's great. And where did you find that?
All this, I made this all up.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I've got one for you. Not today, but I've got one, especially about the swan. And it started back in Hardwar, but it's gone since then. Because if you remember, Hansa was part of his name, wasn't it?
Oh, that's right. It was. Yeah. Hansji Maharaj. Yeah.
Right. So, and Hansa means swan, right?
Correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And just not to give it away, but to give you a hint, if you invert Hansa, you get Sahan.
Oh my gosh! Whoa! That's right. Whoa!
So there it is, and that took me years and years and years to figure out. And Sahan is if you recall your knowledge session, that's how we learned to meditate on the breath initially.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so the swan is the breath. Swan is also the vehicle of Brahma, who is universal consciousness. So give me a break, right?
Yeah.
So I don't remember them telling us that story exactly that way, but in any case, it's still there. So anyhow, someday we'll invent a new story from a bunch of ancient stories, okay?
Yeah, okay, cool.
Okay, so you've got your dragon story and I've got my Hansa story, and we'll put them together. And maybe there's a relationship between the the swans and the dragons. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the dragons turned into swans, so
Yeah.
people wouldn't mistake them for dragons. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've ever been close to a swan. It's quite an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite an experience. And every once in a while, they're not friendly really by nature, but every once in a while they get friendly. And I was sitting on a beach one day with my kids, and the younger one, who was probably 2 years old, was playing on the beach, and the swan swam around in the harbor and then swam closer and closer and actually swam right up on the beach and then walked up to my kid. And you know, a swan can kill you. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They're very powerful, and you don't want to fuck with a swan. You know, if they decided to pluck your eye out, they could do it. And for some reason, I didn't panic. I don't know why, because I spent too much time in India, I guess. And but you know, when I saw this sort of event take place, you know, I thought, oh, here's a spirit animal. So, you know, you have to pay attention to spirit animals, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think we did some good work today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something I'll show you real quick. This is the house of the future I was brought up in right here.
Oh my God. That's beautiful.
This was, imagine this. So we had a lamp. This is 1954. You can move the light around and it automatically would light up. We had windows here, so when it would rain, the windows would automatically close. And if the wind speed was greater than 15 miles per hour, it would close the windows. We had, see that, my mom would be watching us on TV, making dinner, and we'd be in the backyard. This is my brother and I, when we were kids. We would watch us on video cameras. Yeah.
Unbelievable. So
Yeah.
who the heck were your parents?
My dad was an inventor.
I guess so.
See this pan? It would levitate in the air. See that?
Yeah.
It was using the induction energy. I saw about 6 years ago a Burger King commercial, and then they showed my mom, you know, cooking hamburgers on this stove here.
So has this story been told ever, Richard?
Yeah, it's been featured in newsreels all around the world. You know, remember as a kid you would have newsreels, so it was featured in 200 magazines around the world. This is the LA Times right here. That they had the Sunday edition. House Beautiful. So the house was featured in there. Here's Popular Mechanics. You know, it was featured in Popular Mechanics.
Yeah. Well, here, talk about stories. Here's a story that needs to be retold, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And this is the time. So, I mean, you know, this is exactly what everybody is trying to figure out how to do, and your dad was doing it, for crying out loud.
So this was kind of neat. This is, imagined based upon that. This is Chinese. That's where my dad got this idea from. So you would have a fireplace, and in the fireplace, instead of having a chimney that went up, first it went under the floors. So it would heat up the floors and then go up through the chimney. So that was a common practice.
Right. I often wondered why we would burn all this wood and then send the heat straight out of the house.
Yeah.
And suck out all the heat that's in the house at the same time. I never understood that. You know.
So this is like that windows, so you could see out, but you can't see in. So give you privacy. And then this is Popular Mechanics magazine right here, the House of Magic, and that's my grandfather there, and that's my dad. And this shows you the lamp where you can move anywhere. Oh, then we had a real cool. So that's me when I was a kid right there.
Great. Is that a goat? What is that?
Oh, that's a Great Dane.
Oh, okay.
It's got a young Great Dane that got its ears pierced.
Okay.
We also had a glass refrigerator. So imagine, so you could open up the refrigerator, automatically you can see where everything is.
Why they haven't done that, I don't know. I mean, to me, you know, the Indian definition, the American Indian definition of a refrigerator,
What's that?
a place you put leftovers.
Oh yes, sure, right, yeah.
That's
Uh-huh.
the Indian. That's the Indian translation of refrigerator.
Oh wow, wow.
Yeah, a place to put leftovers. Yeah. Well, that's amazing. You really need to. I'm sure you've got it organized, but that story is so ripe for telling, Richard. It was you, and you should be very proud of what your father and mother accomplished. That's really it's more than amazing.
Yeah.
After knowing that, the two of you walking around the world with your surfboards make a lot more sense.
Yeah. So on that, sit here. I have this. I'll just play a couple seconds here.
My brother and I were born December 24th, 1952, in Pasadena, California. We had an incredible childhood. My dad and grandfather owned an aerospace company. The first house I remember was near an orange grove. My brother and I would sneak through the fence and walk in orange.
So anyway, this tells the story all about the house and the features that it had.
Okay, well, don't don't dump it on the internet. I mean, you really spend some time thinking about how it should be presented, because
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it's too valuable just to throw into the pile of stuff on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Richard, I'm also thinking about this image. I like the image of the visiting storytellers. And I'm liking the image of the fire. You called it a campfire. I'm thinking of, I'm trying to get this image of the fire, and I know that I have this image of the fire, and I can see it in my life. I can see it in the time of people living in caves. I can see the American Indians. I see in my mind's eye a lot of people sitting by the fire. Yeah. So, as we think about what Jataka means, I think we should also think about the fire, because I think that has something to do with it too.
Well, your background reminds me of fire right now.
Oh yeah, well that's the sun exploding. That's what that is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't we narrow down to pick 10, and if we don't like it, we'll pick another one. But pick 10 that are clearly, with very strong messages or very powerful messages.
Yeah, and I'll have the most be like about 3 minutes and 30 seconds, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're talking music video, okay?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I mean, some of them could be longer, but I think just in terms of direction, we don't need a 30-second story, and we don't need a 10-minute story.
Correct. Yeah.
We need something that's about, 3 to 5 minutes. When you get everybody's attention and they want, it's, oh, tell me another one, tell me another one, tell me another one. That's, that's 1,001 nights. Says, tell me another one, tell me another one. And she says, oh, well,
yeah.
And the day is here now. I have to rest, and I'll tell you one, at night when the sun goes down. Okay, so that that's that tell me another is part of the culture of this storytelling.
Yeah, yeah.
That and the deep, complex meaning of the stories, which are woven again and again inside of each other. And I, again, now that I'm looking at it, I'm going, these stories are from everywhere. And the Jataka is sort of a loose combination of these things that are somehow related to the various incarnations of the Buddha. But of course, they don't bother to tell you which Buddha it is. They don't do any of that. They just tell you these silly little stories, some of which are told well and some of which are not told well.
Mm-hmm.
Some are like translations from, by a Cambridge professor, and some of them are cartoon, Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And I think what you and I are looking for is something in between. And I think it would be really, I'm going to look at the Rudyard Kipling stories, because I think he found, they're not at the top of my mind right now, but I think he found, for lack of a better word, a formula or a format for, telling these stories. And we would be wise to pay attention to how he handled it, whether we do it the same way or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything more powerful than a story. I've been studying language and scripture and all that stuff for a very long time. And, symbols and icons and all this stuff. Nothing beats a story.
Yeah, no.
Not even a headline, even a so-called meme that everybody rants and raves about these days. Nothing compares to a story. A story has a certain level of involvement and complexity that none of these other devices have. And they sort of wrap imagination and reality together in an inseparable way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Here's something. Here's a real simple story that came from my life. Let me just, it's only a minute and 58. This is me learning how to ride a bicycle. So as you know, I have a twin brother. So this kind of that sets it off.
Once upon a time, there were two twin brothers named Little Ricky and Little Johnny. Little Johnny was a genius in picking up and learning new things, while Little Ricky was what you would call on the slow side. It took him hundreds of tries to learn new things. For example, one Christmas morning, their wonderful parents presented them both with brand new bicycles. Both of them were so excited. Well, they took them out, though. Little Johnny hopped on his and immediately started riding down the block. Well, Little Ricky didn't have the same luck. In fact, it was kind of funny to see how clumsy he was. He didn't give up. He knew deep down inside he could learn how to ride this. It took him about a month. The first time he realized that he was actually riding the bicycle, he was filled with joy. He was so grateful. I did it. I didn't give up. This incident carried him all throughout his life. Every time he had to learn something new, he remembered the experience of learning how to ride a bike. In fact, years later, his wife said that he learned things so quickly. Little Ricky just smiled. He knew that life taught him such a precious lesson at such a young age. Never give up. Persevere. You can learn anything. It may just take time.
That's very nice. Yeah, it also reminds me of how I learned how to ride a bike.
Oh, hold on. What's that? Is that the same way?
Well, I was the youngest of a small gang in a very small community, and everybody was riding around on bikes, and I think I got the second or third hand leftover thing. It was probably a girl's bike, if you know what I mean. Nothing could be more embarrassing. And then I couldn't ride it, but I had to follow them around. So, the good thing about a girl's bike is you can sort of get your feet on the ground. So basically, I ran with the bike, beneath me. And then eventually I learned how to sort of glide a little bit between steps. And then I guess one day the gliding just kept on going. And then I learned to glide with my feet on the wheels, on the pedals. And then I learned to pedal, and that was a big difference.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I think, by the way, now that we're reinventing the whole notion of storytelling, I think it would be good to have, how all the Indian stuff starts with an invocation. Maybe we could end with a little invitation to, if anybody wants to tell a story, after one of these stories is told, be nice to say to somebody, do you have a story that you would like to tell?
Oh, that's a good idea. Let me put that. Yeah.
Well, seeing how that's just what both of us did,
Yeah.
And between the two of us, it would turn into simply the bicycle story, and it would combine both of it, and and it would be, it would become the something bicycle.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's like the deer story. I'm still upset that not upset, but I'm I'm just still kind of wondering why, oh why can't I find this exact one? And I might try one more time, but what's fun is, meanwhile, several other versions have come up, which in some ways are better, and in other ways sort of miss the point. That's why you and I are entitled to not only pick the ones we want, but to adjust them into the present tense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So behind me is a sun storm, and I think that's actually an audio or infrared shot that they translate into color. So anyhow, I saw it and I liked it a lot. And then when I was doing my setup of Zoom, it says you can pick your own picture. So I hit my photo library, and that one just came up almost by itself. So I thought, and meanwhile, everybody in the world is using Zoom now. Very few people take advantage of this magnificent feature. And now I'm kind of like, man on fire. So, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see the monk sitting on top of my head. He sort of pops up. See him?
Yeah.
Okay. Those are Tibetan prayer flags that just happen to break through the noise. And
oh, wow. Oh, cool. Whoa.
And everybody says you've got a monk sitting on your head. So,
oh, yeah, there it is. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. So anyhow, I think we're doing really well. And
so do you want to have these once a week?
Yeah, and I think Thursdays, I don't know if you can do 8 o'clock, but you get a 95% chance of getting me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's do 8 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay, and then then we can lock in Thursdays. I blew somebody off this morning because I was trying to, today is still Thursday, isn't it, or is it Friday?
Today's Friday.
Okay, so my week got kind of altered, and I basically have really strong exercise Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings, and so that's how I keep the tempo of my week, because it's the most discipline that I exercise. I meditate a lot, but I don't meditate like clockwork. I meditate whenever I get a chance to.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, my friend. I think we're doing good. I would just look for.
Yeah, I'm gonna look for 10 stories, and then
Yeah.
gonna look for the opening and find out where the Chicada tells story from, and so then I'm gonna come up with the actual beginning of the actual come around either a campfire or whatever. Just come up with something that is suitable for everybody.
Yeah. Well, again, I think having I think it's very easy to imagine, whether it's a town of unknown origin or a campfire in a park today or whatever, but the idea of people coming by to sit by the fire because it looks like a nice place, like the Girls and the Dragons. It was a nice place, and then these different stories get told, and they could be told by different people,
Yeah.
and or a lot of them could be told by but I don't think we have to make it. These are storytellers. They're not Buddhists, they're not Jain, they're not
Yeah.
Muslim, they're not anything. They're just storytellers, which frees this to be something that can be appreciated everywhere, and no one's going to say, "Oh yeah, well that was actually a tale from the whatever." Who cares?
How about something similar to New York City in the 50s and 60s? They would have coffee houses, where people would gather around. And they would have folk artists or storytellers.
Yeah, well now they have the spoken word, which is an embarrassment. But
Yeah.
I'm I like the notion of fire is, I think, very important.
Yeah.
There's something about the fire has warmth. And I think
Right.
coffee. I think coffee is good. The coffee house, in the 1960s is sort of, or the 50s is probably, it's where the beat people read their poetry and stuff.
Right.
So this is sort of a cross between a coffee house and
Uh-huh.
a I see it sort of as it's this very primal, sort of tribe family sitting around a fire, that's enclosed and stored, by stones. The fire is contained in the stones, and everybody's sitting there staring into the fire.
Yeah, that's the same kind of concept that I see. Especially, fire is primordial, isn't it? If everyone around the world stares at fire.
Yeah, I mean that's not a bad word to think about. Fire stories.
Yeah, fire. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah.
Even in the last 10 years, I was sitting with all of my classmates from 50 years ago. We were all sitting together, and we were all trying to figure out how to work together and how to share our ideas and everything. So I asked one of the guys, what his memories were. And he says, "Well, I remember the Civil War," because he was an expert at the Civil War. And I said, "What is it that you remember about the Civil War?" And he says, "Well, I see all these men sitting around a campfire, and I see all the sparks going off into the air." And I said, and then I, being the creative monkey in the group said, "That's it." And so we named our group Sparks.
Oh, wow, okay.
And it's been Sparks ever since. And they give me credit and I give him credit. It doesn't matter. But what's interesting is it was us around the imaginary campfire, and that the sparks were the ideas that came off from it. So, and they've actually had a dozen Sparks projects, which are very nice. So,
Yeah, so we can have, let's see,
Spark Tales, you know, whatever.
yeah, Spark Tales. Yeah,
Spark Tales. There you go.
yeah.
Yeah, you put two minds together, you never know what you get, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You rub two rocks together, you get a spark, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's really interesting. That's in the old days. That's actually how they started a fire, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A flint.
A flint, and some straw.
Right. Yeah.
There's, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Quest for Fire or Clan of the Cave Bear, but you can still get them, and they're very worth seeing.
Oh, I remember seeing that. I think in the '60s, wasn't it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
One was Daryl Hannah.
Oh, Daryl Hannah. Yeah.
You gotta watch that one. But the other one was Clan of the Cave Bear, I think, which was a very good book, and or a couple of books, and but again, it had this sort of idea of a community of people, you know, a family, a clan, a community, something that we're sort of lacking a lot of these days, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay, again, I think we're doing good work.
Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah. All right. So I got some homework to do, and so next. Oh, you exercise Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So should we do this Thursday?
Let's count on Thursdays always.
Okay. And I'll send you an email or message a day before, so you.
Right. Yeah, and that's because sometimes my life gets busy, and you know, I like this idea. So the way that I make things happen, I have a couple of friends that I see regularly, and even if we don't meet the regular day, we make up for it. And you know, like I didn't meet my friend on Tuesdays. I always have dinner with my friend on Tuesdays, and for some reason Tuesday got way too complicated. I don't know why or how, so it turned into yesterday, which was just fine. And then, but it screwed up my yesterday totally. And then here I am thinking that today, Friday, is yesterday, Thursday, because I'm so, so anyhow, and you know, my memory is good, everything is fine, but you know, I am not in a family situation. I'm living alone, so my life is kind of how I structure it, and what I like is working with friends that want to do good things, and on a regular basis, and then I'm in, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, I can certainly do one meeting a week, and I think you can tell I think about things a little bit. So you know, I will do work. It's just right now I'm still, you know, I'm just beginning to get my stuff online, and I had no idea how much effort that took. It's like lifting rocks into place, putting stuff online. You're probably a lot better at it than I am, but I've been trying to get my stuff up online, and I'm having to relearn, you know, software that I knew 10, 20 years ago, and I'm having to, and they've changed it all.
Oh yeah, almost definitely. Yeah.
It's, in some cases, it's not as good as it used to be. Photoshop is opaque, you know, forget about it. And iPhoto, which used to be this great little program, is turned into an impossible thing. So in any case, I'm sort of trying to regain my computer consciousness. All right.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So this is wonderful. I like the direction that this is going. Hopefully you like it too.
Yeah, almost definitely. Yeah, I knew initially, initially I did the project with my story because I wanted to first do a project, take a look at that, and then you basically scrap it, and then you start in a new one. I had to do my research. First I had to know about the Chicada tales and read them.
Yeah. No, I can tell you do your research, and there's nothing wrong with, your tale. I think is very important, and that this tale that works into the tale of you and me getting into these stories and so on. This is all important as well. So I mean, we don't want to, whether you call it a preface or an intro, that story should still be there. It's a very powerful story, and that these stories are arising out of a 50-year-old relationship is a very beautiful thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and the fact that it was, a bunch of crazies, two brothers and their surfboards, and a crazy Zen Buddhist and his mother in a bhakti hotel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we have more stories to share, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, my friend.
Okay, Guy.
God bless you. Have a good day.
Yeah, God bless you too. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.